I'm just going to talk about selling in the real world, and then I'm going to show you guys, okay, how to you actually go in and create a listing on Etsy. Okay. So I primarily, like I said, lately I've been selling, mostly because I've moved and I've been very busy, but I've been selling more in real world markets and person-to-person interaction. I've done flea markets. I do a flea market actually every month at AS220. It's called the Black Box Flea Market, and it's actually free. It's one of the few flea markets that I do is free. They just ask for a donation at the end, depending on how much you make. It's great. It's very much my demographic. When I was down south, I was doing a lot more aging hipster, i.e. people in their probably 40s and late 30s who were young in the 90s and were looking for that kind of 90s to 70s thing. That was very popular down there. Now that I'm up in New England again, I'm doing the younger hipster. So a lot of woolens, a lot of flannels, a lot of tight pants and boots. So AS220 is a really good place to do that. A lot of people have brick and mortar stores, for instance, Circa, where I worked. Vintage fairs are happening more and more, so these are just, they're kind of like flea markets, but they're usually just you go and you set up a table, and it'll just be a little collective of people. And the new vintage marketplace it's just people talking. And I actually came for a job interview at URI, and a woman bought my purse off of me, the one that I was using right then. I emptied it out and I sold it to her. And that happens more frequently than people, I think, realize, and it's becoming kind of more acceptable. If you see someone who's wearing vintage and you are wearing vintage, you kind of give them the up and down, and they're like those boots, you want to sell them to me? And sometimes they do. So that actually works out really well sometimes for people. I also have people just come over my house and buy things that I have in boxes that I haven't unpacked yet, and it just works out. There are advantages and disadvantages to selling online versus in person. I love the personal interaction of selling, and I think that can really make the difference sometimes whether you're going to make a sale or not. Having a conversation with someone about it, and you can tell a story by typing it, but when you get excited, when people see how passionate you are about stuff, it transfers to them, and a lot of times it'll result in a sale. People can try it on. I sell online, but I will not buy anything online because I will not buy anything I can't try on. It's very important to me to see how the garment looks in my body. I also won't buy anything online because I can't touch it. I'm very big on haptics, I believe is the term. I want to feel the garment. I want to feel the materials, all of it. If it feels bad to me or if it's just strange, I won't buy it. Merchandising. You can merchandise at flea markets and in your store and whatnot. You can do that kind of with photo shots, but when people see it displayed in a nice way and they can come up and they can touch it and they can look at other things with it, it really helps a lot. And you don't have to deal with shipping, which is awesome. Disadvantage. It's a smaller market. You're only going to get the people who come through. You're not going to be able to reach, a person in Japan who wants to buy your old hoarding wear set. You have to transport the stuff. Notice how big that little crate is? That was all I was bringing today. Because I do markets 3 to 4 times a month, and you get real tired of hefting boxes back and forth and collapsible rolling racks, which are not light. There's the cost. A lot of the flea markets you have to pay money. A lot of them have a buy-in of a minimum of $50 to $100. So there's the cost up front, and you might not make any money. If you have a brick and mortar store, you have overhead, you have employees, you have all of that fun stuff. So there are, there's hidden costs that are associated. One of the advantages of selling online is that there is no personal interaction. You don't have to deal with somebody coming in who you know is not going to buy anything and asking you 50 questions, or maybe even picking up or trying on a garment and damaging it and then having no intention of buying it, which is a real problem that I've had happen before. And it's always heartbreaking when it happens. So I think that was my last slide about actual vintage. So I'm going to show you guys how to, I have to see. Okay, so when you are actually posting things on Etsy does charge a nominal fee for each listing, but I think it's something like 25 cents or something like. It's a very, very small fee. And their postings are up for 90 days. So a lot of times I'll go into my shop and I'll be like, oh, that's still there, forgot about that. Which is a lot better. I think eBay is only 30 days and they charge more. Let's see. So, all right, so you go to add new item. Your listings manager shows you everything that's there, how long it's been there, all that fun stuff, how many people have viewed it as well. Etsy's really, really good with generating reports for you to see how many people have visited your page, you know, when you're most visited, things like that. So you go in and for vintage, you're always going to say it's another company or person. It's a finished product, and then you can go in and select when it was made or approximately when you think it was made. So like I said, 1995 now is the cutoff with vintage with Etsy. So say I wanted to post something from the 90s. It's vintage, obviously, and then you can put it in for clothing. And anyway, variations is only if you're selling multiples of things. So if you have like, you found a bunch of dead stock of a skirt, and there are 3 of them, and one is in blue, the other 2 in red, blah, blah, blah. You can put on in variations so that when people see the one thing, they know there's also one available in red. You add your photos. You can add up to 5 photos at a time, which is kind of constraining sometimes when you have a bunch of really good ones you want to put in, or you have a lot of details to show. So a lot of people will do pick stitches, and they'll put multiple photos of detail shots in there. Your item title is, okay, so right here, this is where they're gonna, as you type, okay, it's going to show what it would look like when people search for you on Google. So you wanna make sure that you put as much description in there as possible, to the point where people will use up the entire 140 character limit, which looks ridiculous when you open the page, but it might mean that they get a Google result that they didn't anyway. In the description, I always try to be kind of funny when I'm writing stuff because people will remember your shop and they'll come back. I wrote an absolutely ridiculous post for that suede, either that suede or that leather jacket where I was talking about it's like Anchorman inspired, blah, 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 but my friends loved it and well, it didn't sell yet, but I always try to give them as much detail as possible, but also, like I said, you know, kind of have fun with it. Use words maybe that people use from the time period. I say swank or neat or neato or things like that a lot, and people seem to like that, and it sells pretty quickly. It says try to answer the questions buyers will have. So like I said, you want to put measurements, details, you want to talk about closures, findings, things like that, and also always, always, always repeat your store policies at the end. Let them know about whether you ship internationally. I make international buyers contact me before I give them a shipping quote, so I can find out how much of a hassle it's going to be for me to ship to them. But you want to put, again, as much information in the description pretty much as they'll allow you. And then you can put it into a shop section. You can break into accessories, women's, men's, blah, blah, blah. I generally I just don't mark one because it'll limit people's search results. So if you put something specifically into, you know, women's or, you know, young women's or something like that, and somebody's searching for men's, they might see something that they like in your shop anyway and buy it, and it'll come up. So, so this is actually, this is how I was talking about recipient. So who it's specifically for. I'm not going to say something specifically for teen girls, okay, because a grown woman might want it or a grown man might want it. I mean, anybody could. And then, the tags. Oh, they upped that. So you can now add 13 tags, which is great. So again, like I said, say I was selling a vintage Keith Haring tank top from the 90s. So you want to put things like 1990s Keith Haring, tank, pool, fun. I mean, pretty much anything you can think of in there that's going to get people's attention and you think might be a selling point. You can also, this used to be 4. You could only put 4 tags and 4 materials, so this is exciting that they upped this to 13 recently. You're going to put your price, your quantity. You let them know how long it's going to take to process and ship. I usually say 1 to 3 days because if I'm doing something else or I'm working, that gives me enough time to A, find it, and B, get it all boxed up and get it set. I always print out a invoice for the people, and I put all of my contact information on there as well, and mark it as sold. I only accept credit cards and Etsy gift cards. I used to take PayPal, and it just became so much of a hassle through PayPal. If you don't claim the money within a certain amount of time, they return it. PayPal works out really well for a lot of people, but I found that for a while I was getting so many orders I just couldn't keep up with it. So, and then you're also, like I said, I only put a shipping quote in for the United States. And if anyone wants to buy from me overseas, I always make them give me their postal address, and then I give them a quote, and I ship everything USPS. Some people ship things from, things like that, but that's just the way I do it. Are we done? I think we're done. Okay. I had another thing, but that's all I've got time for, guys. Thank you very much for listening. I was going to say, yeah, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Say if you're the type of person with this star that likes to resize clothing, extra large dress, cat feet, is it still considered in the vintage category even if you're alternate?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, I buy maxi dresses. I do all sorts of stuff. If I think something's going to look better, just because you're altering it doesn't mean it's not vintage anymore. It's still the original, materials, everything. It's from that period. And usually you just want to let them know it's been altered recently. But yeah, it's still. Any other questions?